Welcome everyone, this is DerekJ Speaks, and today we are talking about Survivor Series 2022, the debut, at least the main roster debut, of WarGames. For the first time in the history of Survivor Series, we had two WarGames matches on the event, and both matches were excellent, but for two very different reasons. The women's WarGames match opened up the show and was just an excellent match, great action from start to finish. The men's WarGames match was not as good in that department, but it had 5 stars across the board in terms of pure storytelling, as we saw with the finish of that match, as Sami Zayn low-blowed his longtime rival slash best friend Kevin Owens, and then gave him a haluva kick in the corner and offered him up for Jey Uso to hit an Uso splash onto and pin him and give the win for the Bloodline, thus officially making Sami Zayn a full-fledged member of the Bloodline, and Sami proving his loyalty to Roman Reigns and the entire Bloodline faction, especially Jey Uso, whom he shared a very heartwarming embrace with, which, despite these guys being these dastardly heels, got a big pop from the Boston crowd here. The moment where Jey Uso hugged Sami Zayn and all the members of the Bloodline stood tall together as they reveled in their big victory in the first ever men's WarGames match on the main roster. The main event was good. It was a very good match. It had a lot of really brutal chaos and great action, a lot of cool spots in it. It just nothing match-wise, like what they did with the moves and the weapons and all that kind of stuff. Nothing could really hold a candle to what we saw earlier in the night with the women's match. What they did was good. There was some very cool, unique spots in the main event. There was one point when all the baby faces were hitting the 10 beats, the Sheamus thing where he does the 10 beats of the Balor or whatever it is. All the baby faces were doing it to all the heels. So that was cool. You had a bunch of guys hitting moves on each other. Of course, Sheamus hitting the bro kick. He was going to hit it on Roman, but he ended up hitting it on Sikoa. Solo Sikoa, that is. And then Roman came at Sheamus, hit him with the spear. You had a bunch of crazy stuff with tables. At one point, Roman speared Holland through a chair or through a table in the corner. Another point, Solo Sikoa hit the spinning solo on Drew McIntyre, planted him through a table. So you had cool stuff there, but the big story of this match came down to those closing moments. It really started off with Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, who had a face-off. They were going at it. Roman attempted to hit the spear, but Kevin Owens dodged it. He hit him with the pop-up powerbomb and then got him with the stunner. He went for the cover, went for the pin, and Sami Zayn, who had been super kicked accidentally by Jey Uso a little bit earlier in the match, he came back into things and he held up the referee's count. And there was this big tense stare down between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Owens is telling Sami, like, this is your family, this is who you consider family, because all night it was the question of where does Sami's loyalties lie. We had that segment the previous night on SmackDown with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn talking backstage. On this show, we had Sami Zayn talking to Roman Reigns, and Roman saying, I'm going to look into Sami's eyes, and I know where he stands. So you fast forward to this match, this moment, Sami and Kevin Owens face to face. You don't know what's going to happen. And then Jimmy Uso comes in, goes to throw a super kick at Kevin Owens. Owens blocks it. He grabs Jimmy's foot. And then that's when Sami comes in and hits KO with the low blow. Down goes Kevin Owens. Sami, still pained, he leans down, looks over at Roman, and basically gets the nod of approval from Roman Reigns to take the floor and take the win. Sami rears back and comes at Kevin Owens with a brutal haluva kick in the corner. Owens is down, and Sami doesn't go for the cover. Instead, he offers Kevin Owens almost on a silver platter for Jey Uso, who then goes up top, comes off, hits the Uso splash onto Kevin Owens, and he gets the win. He gets the win for the Bloodline, and Sami Zayn proved that he is all in on being a member of the Bloodline and being a member of this family. He is dedicated to it, and I just cannot tell you how much I love this storyline. This is easily the best story in all of professional wrestling. There is no other story in WWE, in AEW, Impact, New Japan, anywhere else. There is no story that has as many layers and has as much complexity and in-depth as this storyline with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. And now we had this very pivotal moment in the story in this match. A lot of people thought that this was going to be the beginning of the end. Tonight was going to mark the catalyst that we will see the eventual downfall of the Bloodline, all thanks to a slip-up from Sami Zayn costing the win, taking the pinfall, accidentally costing Jey Uso the pinfall. I kind of thought they were going in that direction, especially when Jey Uso had accidentally super kicked Sami earlier in the match. I thought maybe Sami would accidentally do something to Jey Uso and cost them the match. But no, they took the story in a different direction. A lot of people thought flat out that we were going to see Sami get turned on right here, and the Bloodline was going to attack him on this night, which was far too early, but it could have happened, but that's not the direction they went in. And I am quite happy with the way things played out in this match. I, for one, was hoping for a babyface win, only because it's good to show every once in a while that the Bloodline has some vulnerability. And in a match like this, multi-man match with a story that could be told with Sami, no titles are on the line, nothing like that, could have been a good opportunity for the Bloodline to take a loss, and then you could develop the story from there. But I kind of like this new direction now. Sami is accepted. Jey Uso has been at Sami's throat for months now, and now even Jey Uso has accepted Sami Zayn. He was hugging him, and like I said, the crowd popped huge for it. These guys are heels. They're the bad guys here. And of course, the whole dynamic of heels and babyfaces was kind of flipped on its head with the dynamic of this match, since the babyfaces had the man advantage, which was all designed to stack the deck against the Bloodline. You know, they're going at it, you know, face to face, even keel. They have a disadvantage, and now the question of whether Sami Zayn is going to be loyal to them or not, all that stuff played out to back the Bloodline into a corner so they could come out on top, and for Sami Zayn to prove where he stands right now. Now, just because this was not the big night that Sami would cause the downfall of the Bloodline or they would turn on him, that does not mean that this isn't the big point. You can look at it from a different angle, that this is the night that we will look towards in the future. Like, this is the night that everything changed. Yes, Sami Zayn is accepted by the Bloodline. They have welcomed him with open arms now. He gave them the victory here. He was the MVP for the Bloodline in this match. But now we see where do things lie with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Will there be a time in the future where Sami does slip up, where he does make a mistake and it costs the Bloodline something huge and then they turn on him? Does it have to be something like that? Could it be a case where Sami Zayn, he is smarter than everyone thinks he is, and he knows the long con here, and once he has everyone under his fingertips, once he has everyone accepting him, that's when he'll strike, and that's when he will get whatever he's getting out of this, if they go in that direction. Or if the Bloodline, mainly Roman Reigns, looks at this and takes the stance of, well, Sami, you did what we needed you to do, and now you have outlived your usefulness, so sayonara. There's so many ways and there's so many directions that this story can go. But despite what happened tonight, and I know some people might not be able to see it right now, but you got to think long term, you got to think layers and all that kind of stuff. But still, long term, I believe the destination that we are heading towards is Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens taking on the Usos for the tag team titles at WrestleMania next year in Hollywood. That is still the ultimate goal. That is still the ultimate destination. Where we go from here to get to that point is going to be a lot of fun to see. Here on this night, Sami Zayn proved his loyalty to the Bloodline at the expense of Kevin Owens. He low-blowed Kevin Owens. He kicked him in the face. So we'll see where things stand with that. Maybe Kevin Owens, despite taking the loss here, maybe he still might end up getting a future championship match with Roman. They've already had 2 matches at the Rumble before. Who's up for a third? And, test Sami's loyalty once again. I don't know. But I think there are just so many clever, unique directions that this story can go. And I'm along for the ride. And I loved what we saw here in this match to propel us even more towards the future. But like I mentioned, the storytelling in this match was top tier and just 5 stars for that alone. The match itself, up to that point, the brawling and the action that we got was good, but it was nothing compared to the opening WarGames match with the women. Team Bianca versus Team Damage Control. You had Bianca Belair, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, Mia Yim, and the returning Becky Lynch taking on Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki Cross. And I thought this was a great match. There was a lot of crazy action in this match. Poor Dakota Kai was getting her ass kicked throughout this entire match, so she was definitely a champion in this match. But everyone did great, phenomenal in this match. A lot of weapons, a lot of the tables and kendo sticks, which we got in the main event too, but we didn't have too much of it. We got plenty more of it in this match than we did in the main event, which is fine. That kind of distinguishes the 2 matches from each other. So this was more of the hardcore war brawl type affair here, and I thought it was very good. There was a few points in this match that did get a little sloppy, did get kind of botchy in a way, which is understandable. A lot of moving parts in a match like this. Io was kind of having a bit of a rough night early on, but she definitely more than made up for it. She had some of the biggest highlights of the entire match, including one incredible spot where she hit a moonsault off the top of the cage down onto Bianca Belair and Mia Yim. But she was not outdone in terms of the big off the top of the cage spots, because that led into the finish. We had it come down to Becky and Bianca together up against Bayley, Io, and Dakota. They got the better of Io and Dakota. Bayley had one last stitch effort to try to take down Bianca, but she ended up getting hit with the KOD, knees first into the cage. She goes down, and then with Dakota and Io laid out on 2 tables, Becky goes to the top of the cage, comes down with a diving leg drop onto both women, crashing down onto both women through the tables, and she pinned Dakota to get the win. So a very excellent start to this show, a very strong open to this show, and a very nice effort for the first ever main roster WarGames match of any kind, man or woman. So we'll see where things go coming out of this match in terms of who's next in line for a shot at Bianca. I'm not sure who that person will be. I would love for it to be Rhea, but I just don't see it heading in that direction just yet. As far as Bayley is concerned, I think the natural pairing is a Bayley-Becky feud coming out of this. So we'll see. But outside of all the WarGame stuff, we did have other matches on this show, including a match between AJ Styles and Finn Balor. Of course, the respective leaders of their factions. Well, AJ, of course, is the leader of the OC. It's debatable whether Finn Balor is the leader of the Judgment Day. I think Rhea Ripley is more suited for that role, but I digress. I thought they had a really good match here. Started off very slow. The crowd was a little dead for it, especially coming after that WarGames match. This came right after the women's WarGames, so the crowd was a little low for the first part of the match, kind of feeling each other out, chain wrestling. Not a whole lot of excitement, but both members of each other's factions were out there at ringside, and so they interfered. Dominic provided some interference, and then he and Damian Priest began to brawl with Gallows and Anderson. They brawled out into the crowd, never to be seen or heard from again. And in the end, AJ got the clean victory, which shocked me. Not that he won, but that he won as cleanly as he did. He hit the phenomenal forearm on Finn Balor, and he got the clean win. And this marked the very first singles pay-per-view victory for AJ Styles since October of 2019. That is absurd to think about. It's crazy that it has been that long since AJ Styles has won a singles match on a pay-per-view. Come to think of it, I can't remember the last match in general AJ Styles won on pay-per-view. I'm sure it was some tag matches when he and Omos were champions, because this year alone he has not won any matches on pay-per-view. So that's a crazy statistic, but he did get the win here, a clean win, in a very good match against Finn Balor. What was not too good of a match was the SmackDown Women's Championship match with Ronda Rousey and Shotzi. The effort was there from Shotzi, but yeesh, this was pretty rough. While there were a few rough spots in the women's WarGames match, this match was just one big rough spot. They just never really clicked here in this match. A lot of the moves that were happening, it just did not look all that good. Ronda was barely selling anything in this match. Shotzi over here is pulling up the underdog babyface thing. She's trying to prove that she has some shot in hell of beating Ronda here, which no one could buy into, hence why the crowd kind of turned on the match. They started chanting, "We want Sasha." Then they just started flat out booing the match, despite some big things that they were trying to do here. No one could really buy into Shotzi as a formidable challenge for Ronda here. And Ronda, I don't really know what she was doing, but she was not really doing she was not doing a great job of selling the idea that Shotzi was going to beat her, or that she stood a chance of beating her. Just completely no selling a lot of her moves here. So I didn't really love this match all that much. I'm quite frankly being a lot nicer to this match than a lot of the discourse that I saw about it on my timeline on Twitter. So that's all I can really say about it. Ronda won, obviously. She got the win with the Piper's Pit into the armbar for the submission win. So thankfully, mercifully, it ended. And you know, if the idea is for Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch to face off at WrestleMania, you know, the promos, especially from Becky, could still be on point there, but match-wise, I don't know. I don't know if this is the kind of stuff that we're going to be seeing from Ronda now. I don't know. I don't know how exciting that match sounds anymore. But such is life. And we also had a triple threat match for the United States Championship on this show. Seth Rollins defending against Bobby Lashley and the new and improved Austin Theory. Austin Theory is the new United States Champion after a very great match, a very entertaining sprint of a match with these guys here. I thought they had a very unique finish here in this match. We see both Lashley and Theory kind of knelt down, both of them on their hands and knees. Rollins swoops in. He kind of leaps off of Theory's back and hits a stomp on Lashley. Rollins then starts to mix it up with Austin Theory, and this leads to Rollins going up top and attempting to do the superplex into the Falcon Arrow spot with Theory. So he hits him with the superplex, gets him down in the ring, gets him up going for the Falcon Arrow, but as he has Theory up on his shoulders, up in the air, Lashley comes back in, hits Rollins with the spear, but then Lashley's down, still selling the effect of the stomp, but in doing so, in hitting the spear, Rollins goes down, and Theory, who was still up in the air, he kind of falls down onto Rollins, and the referee counts the 3, and Theory is the new United States Champion. So a great match, even greater finish. My only critique is if the end goal was for Theory to win the United States Championship, then why did they have him fail to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase all those weeks ago? And I saw some people on Twitter saying this, and some people were responding like, oh, well, Theory, he needed to fail because he was never going to cash in on the World Championship. He never had a chance of cashing in on Roman. That's not the point. The segment on Raw was that Theory cashed in his briefcase on Seth Rollins, on the United States Championship. He did not win the United States Championship. That's what he failed to cash in on. That's what happened there. He failed to cash in and win the United States Championship. And then he has this, new character change, this new makeover of his character. That's all fine and good, cutting promos differently, coming off attempting to look more badass and all that kind of stuff. Good for him. And then he comes into this show and he wins the U.S. title. All fine and good, except for the fact that if he was just going to win the title anyway, why didn't you just have him cash in the briefcase to win the title? He cashed in on the U.S. title anyway. Why not just have him win? And then that way, now people were saying like, oh, well, he needed to fail to cash in because that was a catalyst for the character change. You didn't need to do that. He could have still cashed in on the U.S. title, won the title, and still provided the exact same rationale that he did. Now, Roman is untouchable, no one's going after him, and the U.S. title was my best chance. And I'm no longer the future, I am the here and now. And now that the briefcase is gone, now that I am champion here in WWE, I am going to make a new change. I am no longer the future, I'm the here and now. All the stuff that he did, and he can still go on to beat down Dolph Ziggler. He can lay down the challenge for Seth and Bobby Lashley for the triple threat, and he can kind of take charge in that way, and he can still eke out the win in this match the exact same way that he did. Bottom line is, you didn't need to have another year where the Money in the Bank briefcase is completely wasted. You could have come to this exact same destination and the exact same outcome with Theory successfully cashing in on the United States Championship. It is very weird that Theory does not cash in on the world title and instead cashes in on a mid-card title, the U.S. title. He fails to win it, thus failing his cash in, only to then 2 or 3 weeks later end up winning that championship anyway. That's just where I'm coming from with that. But in any event, good for Theory. It was a very good match. It was a very clever, creative finish. And Theory, this new and improved Austin Theory, is the United States champion. Whatever. I just think You took away the route to get to this point was unnecessary. But that's just me. But that does not dampen my thoughts on this show. Overall, top to bottom, the SmackDown Women's title match is kind of a sore spot. But other than that, I thought this was a damn good show. I can't praise the 2 WarGames matches enough. Those 2 matches bookending this show, that's enough alone to give it a thumbs up. But you throw in a damn good match with AJ Styles and Finn Balor and a really, really great triple threat match for the U.S. title with Lashley, Rollins, and Theory. That's more than enough to give this a thumbs up. That's 4 out of 5 matches on this show, with 2 of those 4 being excellent. One action-wise, the other one story-wise. The story alone in those last 5 or 6 minutes of the men's WarGames match is more than enough to give this show a thumbs up. So that's what you hear from me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the WarGames stuff. Hopefully this is going to be the new thing for Survivor Series. Hopefully they find unique ways of incorporating WarGames, and it's not just a thing where it's November, so it's time for WarGames. No. Hopefully if they're going to do this, it has to make sense. It has to be built up enough where it makes sense to do it with the men and with the women, or one or the other. You don't have to force it just because you have both. You don't have to do it just for the sake of doing it. Do it only if it makes sense. It just so happened this year, it did make sense. So if you're going to keep this tradition, keep it making sense. So that's all I got to say about that. I like this show. I like the stories coming out of it, especially with the Sami Zayn Bloodline stuff. Excellent. Incredible. And let me know what you thought. If you liked it, if you hated it, whatever, leave your thoughts in the comment section below and leave a like for this video. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. And of course, follow me on Twitter at DerekJ Speaks. And I will be back to you at some point. There's no more pay-per-views this year, so I'm sure I'll find something to talk about. Maybe a Dynamite here and there, or a Raw, or a SmackDown. Close to the end of the year, going to be coming out with a top 15 favorite matches of the year list, so keep an eye out for that in the month of December. And until next time, all you take care.